many reasons. Tomorrow we would be observing the 30th International Day of Persons with Disabilities. And this day celebrated each year. It's observed across the globe to understand the challenges and raise awareness on the various issues that affect persons with disabilities. Now, one common thread that you'll find across all of these challenges, whether it is access to education, healthcare, job opportunities, or a larger integration into the mainstream society, the common thread that we find here is the lack of accessible transport. So, to discuss these challenges, we are hosting this session today. And sorry, yes, so we are hosting this session today, and we have with us on the panel persons with disabilities to share their experiences and also sector experts who worked on the on ground implementation of accessibility standards. Now, during the COVID-19 lockdown, some of us got a short glimpse of how restricted mobility feels like. And we were forced to undergo that lockdown. But the lack of accessible transport options has made this lockdown extended for a lot of people. India is home to 26 million persons with disabilities, according to the 2011 population census, and the non-governmental figures put these estimates up to as big as 100 million. One important thing also is that persons with disabilities are not a homogeneous group. They all have their own diverse set of challenges which need to be considered and integrated into the planning process. And when we talk about planning, it is also important to hear the voices of the end users. And that is why we are organizing this session today to understand the perspectives of the end users. So I would, before I introduce the panel, I would like to invite Mr. Shirish Mahendru from GIZ's Sustainable Urban Mobility Access, Climate Action, Air Quality and Access, which is short for SUM-ACA. So, Mr. Mahendru, can you please take the floor?
Thank you
And
so much,
I'd
Chanti.
request the other speakers to turn off their camera so that we can see our sign language interpreters on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chanti. Thank you, and congratulations for bringing this wonderful topic in for discussion. I'm Shirish Mehndra. I'm also part of a GIZ SUM-ACA project. SUM-ACA is Sustainable Urban Mobility, Air Quality, Climate Action, Accessibility. This is a new project follow-up after the Smart SUT project, which is currently being funded by the Ministry of Cooperation and Development, German ministry, and we have a MoHUA as an implementation partner. So under this project, we have 8 cities and 4 partner states. And it is important to highlight that under this project, we have this accessibility as the very main component of it. And under this project, we are envisaging a few initiatives which will take up in the due course of time under the next 3-4 years. And the few of the initiatives which we're thinking right now may be on to the right implementation support or the right support to our partner cities to take up this inclusive mobility and while addressing the right challenges and issues being faced by the persons with disabilities. We are also thinking of having this initiative to understand the policy reforms which are very necessary at the local and the state and the national level. And another important things I would like to highlight that we really we are living in the age of digitalization, and it is very important to have a right amount of and right authentic data which can support in the inclusive mobility. We did this also in the past project for the gender reforms. We had a disaggregated data reforms for the particular gender component, and we also envisaging to extend it further for the person with disabilities as well. It is also important to also highlight the implementation and monitoring frameworks for to set up this inclusive infrastructure and at the various levels. Under this project, we also have a very important component for the capacity building, which I believe is very important, and we want to substantiate this with the right capacity building, institutional strengthening, so that the person who in charge of the agencies who are being anchored agencies, they responsible for this thing. They take up these projects and with the right approach and right manner. I can also see. I was reading one article which is Subhash. I think they published online. It's a blog or article where he's already mentioned about there is one act already there, rights for person with disabilities act 2016, which clearly indicates the section 41 and 43, which talks about the inclusive planning and inclusive mobility and the standard designs for roads, also the retrofitting of vehicles and the universal designs for the product developments. And also to the vehicles and the modes which are there for public transport to have the design standards. So I think that the system is already in place. We need to have a substantial actions in forward to work for the right, the right approach towards it. So uh, with this, I congratulate and welcome all the esteemed panel again, and this hand over again to Chandni and look forward for the wonderful discussions. Thanks, Chandni.
Thanks, Shirish. So for the benefit of our panelists, Ms. Sadamini and other persons with hearing impairment, we need to switch off our cameras. Everyone except for the sign language interpreters will have to switch off their cameras. So I'll also be turning off my camera. Mr. Trivedi, can I also please request you to turn off the camera so that Ms. Sadamini can see Karishma and Tasleem, who are our sign language interpreters, on the screen? Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Mahendru, for your keynote address. Now I will be introducing our distinguished panel. So our panel today consists of lawyers, accessibility specialists, and disability rights organizations. I hope the screen.
Just give minute. Yeah.
Yes, is everything okay now? You need 2 minutes?
Yes, it's just 2 minutes. She was just explaining that the interpreters can switch in between, like after 15 minutes. Yes, 15 minutes. So both of them should not sign at the same time. That is what Swadhamini was mentioning.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure, Tasneem. Please feel free to interrupt
Yeah.
me if there are any accessibility issues at any time.
Yeah, so I am continuing now, and after 3:15, Karishma can start. Yeah, no problem.
All right, thank you. So now for the panel, we have Advocate Tapas Bharadwaj, who is a lawyer and disability rights activist with specialization in human rights law. He has been associated with several NGOs and think tanks and has been on the committee for making Digital India more inclusive with the BISAC Ministry of Electronics, Information and Technology. Currently, he is a trustee and head of inclusivity at Raindrops Foundation. We also have Ms. Meenu Arora Mani, who is the co-founder of Yes We Can Foundation, an NGO working towards the welfare of persons with disabilities. Being a wheelchair user and woman with cerebral palsy, she has been working towards the rehabilitation and upliftment of women with multiple disabilities. We also have Subhash Chandra Vishisht, who is an accessibility, universal design, and diversity inclusion specialist working on policy and standards formulation, capacity building, access, and advocacy on disability inclusion in built environment transport systems and ICT. As an expert member on the Indian Bureau Standards Committee for National Building Code, Smart Cities, and Active Assistant Living, etc., he has also contributed to the standards formulation and incorporating universal accessibility. He's also the co-chair of communications and member of Standing Committee on Accessible Transport and Mobility at the Transportation Research Board of National Academies, USA. We have Mr. Rajesh Trivedi, who has been associated with the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India as a special consultant with a major focus on the implementation of Rights for Persons with Disabilities Act of 2016. He has contributed in various interventions of the department, such as Amendment of Rehabilitation Council of India Act, Job Identification, University of Disability Studies, and Sugamya Bharat mobile application. Finally, we have Ms. Saudamini, who is Haryana's first female lawyer and India's second, Haryana's first female deaf lawyer and India's second female deaf lawyer. She has also been associated with several NGOs working for deaf empowerment since 2008. And thank you for joining, ma'am. We are honored to have all of you with us today. So,
I am very welcome. Very welcome.
thank you. We also have two sign language interpreters with us today, Mrs. Tasneem Sheikh and Ms. Karishma Dhariwal. So thank you so much for joining and making our session more accessible. Moving on to a panelist, I would like to first invite Mr. Tapas. Tapas, can you please turn on your camera if possible? So,
Highlighted, your video is highlighted for everyone.
yes, thank you for joining us, Tapas. Tapas, being a lawyer,
Ma'am,
activist, yeah.
excuse
Yes,
me,
Karishma.
ma'am. Ma'am, I'm unable to see anyone.
You're unable to. Can you see Tapas? He will be the speaker.
No.
So,
I
Tasneem,
can
can
only.
you switch off your? I think she's spotlighted. Just
Hi, Karishma. Can you please try joining again? I think the video is visible to everyone.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, sir.
Caroline guest joined the call. 2 participants left the call.
Right.
Karishma
Apologies
in lobby.
for the technical error. We're just trying to make sure that the session is accessible for everyone.
Parent joined the call.
Yes. Karishma, can you see our speaker?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Now
All right.
everything is all right.
And so, Damini, can you see Karishma and Tasleem? They'll be interpreting. Can you see them on the screen?
Drexler Stephen guest joined the call.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes. So, Tapas, being a lawyer, activist, and a person with visual disability yourself, you understand the challenges that persons with special needs face in the mobility needs. How has your journey been as a public transport user? Can you please share your journey with us?
Sure. Good afternoon, one and all. I hope I am audible and visible.
Yes, Tapas. Can you lift your camera a little up? Yes, it's perfect now.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. At the outset, I would like to congratulate the team at GIZ India for organizing a conversation around this pertinent and noteworthy issue. The transportation system is a core ingredient of our day-to-day functioning. I also take this opportunity to extend my warm wishes to everyone on the occasion of World Disability Day, which we would be celebrating tomorrow. Let's go. Doesn't this term excite us all? Don't we have a fascination to move from one place to another? Is mobility not a necessity for us? If the case would have been contrary, then what was the need to move out of our homes once the lockdown period got over? Friends, transport is an equalizer, a catalyst that facilitates access to other sectors such as education, healthcare, employment, and whatnot. However, for us, the persons with disability, using our transport facilities have limited options or at times total restriction. I, as a person with visual disability, a youth, a working professional, an enthusiastic traveler, and most importantly, a living being, have the requirements and needs to travel from one place to another. Due to my vision impairment, driving my own vehicle is an option which is totally eliminated from the list of options that I can choose for my movements. My reliance on public transport facilities increases more so as having one's own driver, or for that matter, booking a cab every day, is a privilege that can be exercised by a very few in our country. I often use different modes of transportation for moving from one place to another. I take this opportunity to share my experience while traveling in a bus primarily, but I would be also focusing upon my observations that I have made while traveling in other modes of transport. At times, I'm standing at the bus stands and waiting for long durations for the bus, not because the buses don't arrive, but because the drivers don't stop the buses, even after my white cane is visible to them. I'm dependent on other passengers to help me in boarding the same, as they are the one who indicate to him or her that you need to stop the bus. Don't I have the right to board the bus independently? Once I board the bus, the challenge is to buy a ticket for myself. However, the ticket is also not in an accessible format. I then have to recognize the priority seat for me without any braille signage. Isn't it unfair? Is it, is it not discriminatory? Where have we reached? Is it not a curiosity and necessity while we are traveling? In order to do so, I need to take out my phone and hear it out. Once my phone dropped from my hand and it broke down as I was pushed from the back when I was trying to trace my location. What if someone snatches away the phone from me while I'm traveling? Can't there be inbuilt announcement systems in our buses, as is the case with the metros? Well, we don't have a proper recognition system mechanism for identifying our seats in the metros as well. And how can I forget those ticket vending machines which are inaccessible? I'm also left with an option to travel in an auto, but meter reading, how will I do it when it is not announcing the reading for me? I do remember a time when we had the audible systems installed in some of the buses in Delhi. Now, when I inquire about the same from the bus staff, they tell me that they are not working. Or at times, I hear old movie songs on the same. Movement is my constitutional right. Accessibility, which includes in its ambit an accessible transport, is a core principle of the United Nations Convention for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities 2006. Article 9 specifically talks about accessibility. Our Indian legislation, that is the Rights of Persons with Disability Act, which was formulated in order to fulfill the obligations under UNCRPD, also provide a right to an accessible transport. We do have the bus building codes. But my friends, why do I have to carry multiple documents while I am traveling in a bus, while I am traveling in a train? Why don't we have one when we have the unique disability identity card? Why can't we use it in order to travel in different modes of transport? Or can't we have one card for traveling in different modes of transport? Why don't we have the accessible websites which help me in tracing the travel for me? We do have the guidelines for Indian government websites, the GIGW web standards. We do have the WCAG standards, that is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. But how far are they being implemented? Dear friends, we don't want to make our traveling experiences a nightmare for us. We want to enjoy them and cherish them. Can I request you all in helping us doing so? In making our dreams a destination? Because every drop counts. Thank you. I would love to provide more input if it is required at any point of time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your personal experiences with us, Tapas. And I'm sure at the end, when we have an open floor for Q&As, you will get a lot of questions from our participants who are attending this session. So thank you, Tapas. Now I'd like to invite Mrs. Meenu Arora Mani, who has just joined us. Meenu, are you here with us? Can you please turn on your camera? Meenu, can you please turn on your camera?
Chani, she's on mute. If you can just ask her to unmute.
Meenu, you're on mute. Can you please check your connection and your microphone, please? If there are technical difficulties, then we can move to another panel. Meenu, is it possible for you to join right now? Can you speak? I think she's facing some technical difficulties. We'll come back to Meenu. So, Damini, can we please have your views? Because your experiences will be very different from Tapas, who is heavily reliant on audio aid, as he was mentioning. So, this also tells us that different different disabilities require different sets of solutions and interventions, and therefore the importance of universal design is highlighted here. So also trying to understand, because your disability is more invisible, so to say. So how do these attitudinal barriers or the lack of awareness affect your everyday mobility needs? Can you throw some light on that for us, Sudhamini? Your camera and mic is off. So, Damini, are you here?
Chani, she has raised her hand. I think maybe some difficulty she's facing. You are on mute. We can't hear you, Chani.
So, Damini, if there are any technical issues, can you type your concern in the chat?
Maybe try rejoining if that works.
Are you not able to see her video?
No, the video is not visible. Sorry.
Okay, wait a minute.
लॉग आउट कर परत लॉग इन करत
Oh, yes, so Damini is trying to rejoin. So, apologies for
Is it on now?
making you wait. Yeah.
लॉग आउट कर परत लॉग इन करते
Okay, so while Sodamini is trying to rejoin, maybe we can have some questions. We also have a Q&A option in case anybody wants to type their questions in the chat box. You can, if you have any questions, you can type them and we will address them in between. So if you have any questions to any of our panelists, feel free to type them in the chat box or using the Q&A session. There is a Q&A feature at the top. You can use that or you can type in your questions in the chat. So Damini, is it, can you share your camera, please? We can't see your screen, so Damini. Yes.
Yes, now I can see clearly.
I'll be switching off my
yeah.
camera so
And
that
keep, yes, and keep Saudamini also in spotlight so that we can see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already done that.
Only,
So
yeah, remove, unpin Karishma.
we'll unpin Karishma.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Now it's clear and perfect.
So I'll repeat my question for you, Sadamini, in case you missed. I was trying to understand that your experiences of commuting and your challenges will be very different from what we heard from Tapas, since his needs are more audio reliant. They require audio solutions. So how has your experience been different also, since your disability is more invisible? How do the attitudinal barriers and lack of awareness around the challenges for deaf persons affect your mobility needs and your everyday commuting experiences?
Yeah, okay. Okay. Her video is freezing a lot for me. So I'll start with my experience. So when I moved to Delhi in Haryana, near to Delhi, near to Haryana, it's Faridabad, and I was commuting there for my work purpose and also like meeting the NGOs and other purposes. Like when Tapas was sharing his experience, like when he was like using the transport or similar experience to that, when I have to like catch any train or something, I could not depend on the hearing or the audios. So if at all I wanted to talk to the ticket officer, or how that time also it was very difficult for me to communicate with them. If I touch them, that was not that was an incorrect manner, and they kept speaking to me all the time. And when like people, even in if I am in bus, so I have to talk to the conductor, they keep speaking from behind me, and that is how the communication again is very difficult. So it's, yeah, you can say like, yes, the disability of mine is invisible because nobody understands. They see me as a very physical and fit person, but they cannot understand. So they are not even understanding if I don't even wear machine because I don't like to wear hearing aids. It gives me like pain in my ears, so I don't wear that. If there is a disabled seat and if I'm sitting over there, and they will ask me why you are sitting there, you are not a disabled person, and they start keeping to me, and then the arguments happen over there. So these are the like experiences. If I take a cab and I So earlier there was no cab like that much we used, but now we can book Ola, Uber, we have cabs. But many a times what happens, they keep calling to me and they keep calling me for going to another venue. So I text them all the time, please message me what, but still they keep calling. So there also I get stuck in between. If at all, if possible, I have my hearing family members, I ask them to like attend the call. If I am outside alone, then it's a barrier. So I try meeting another person, or I ask, or I have to depend on somebody else to like speak on my behalf. I have to like depend on them for help, and that is also a stress for me. And the same time I keep getting call, I cannot answer them. I and always tell them. So this is like being a deaf, there is also a one barrier, and like I get stressed out because of that. Yes. And when coming to the metro, uh, yeah, I have been traveling to metro. Yeah, metro. And they, it's visible and they have visuals over there. It has red lines, footsteps where I have to go walk, it's there. But and this is good for me because I can read. But here in India, many deaf people cannot read. It's very difficult for them to read, to understand spelling. It's also very difficult for them. So that is why sign language is very useful for me and people like me. I'll share. And I also like, I when I was working for a women empowerment work, we both were deaf and we were sitting in the metro. Yeah, in the metro. But the girl was not aware like where she wants to go because she couldn't read properly. So she had to, I was going here and there. Yeah. So she was sitting. Okay, she was sitting on the metro platform, and I went to the next platform. I went to, and then I searched for her, looked for her, and then I got her, and then she came with me because she couldn't read over there what was written. Okay. And fourth problem, like many women have told me also, and this is, and even Faridabad, in rural Faridabad, it's a rural place only, and people stay very far from very far, an interior part, and they use cycles. So when I have to like go to some place, I have to speak for them because they cannot understand what I am trying to tell, and I have, if I am writing, they cannot read it, and when I am trying to speak, they are laughing on me just hearing my just hearing my voice. They are making it mock because I cannot speak. So I am like looking, I again feel that time I have to look for a person who can read, who can like read for me, and they will speak the name for me because I cannot speak properly like others. That's not, I cannot, I never have done that, and that's not possible only. So there are so many barriers. And in yes, and in metro there's no escort needed like when we travel. Only in metro. When so it is very important where like they include sign language. If we like on the hoardings or boards, they have sign language like they have to go to the right or they have to take the left. Yeah, I have seen that in Bangalore or maybe Jaipur and some part of Jaipur, but other places it's not there, where there is like video information in sign language. That is the need of today. Yes, person with disabilities and all the like the needs which the person with disabilities require, it's very important, and we must have barrier free environment and accessible buildings, public or it is private, both has to be barrier free for everyone. That's what it is mentioned in RPWD Act, and that's how we'll get the independent. But it's still there, but like commuting free travel, it's not there. No. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing with us your personal experiences, Sadamini. And from your experience, it's very clear that this is not an issue that's just limited to infrastructure or policy, but also requires a lot of sensitization and empathy and awareness towards persons with special needs. So, thank you so much for sharing. And I'm sure that the attendees here who are from the planning community have also gotten some food for thought and will help us reorient certain things when we plan for interventions, especially towards sensitization of crew in public transport. Next, thank you so much, Sadamini. Next, I'd like to invite Mrs. Minu Arora Mani. Minu, are you here with us? Can you please share your video?
Or video भी. Hi.
Hi, Minu. Can you please share your video?
Yes. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Hi. Hi, everyone. How are
Hi,
you all?
thank you so much for joining. We are glad that the technical glitches are over and you're finally able to join us.
Yes. Hi.
Yes. So, Meenu, how has your mobility experience been over the years? And you must have seen the public transport change over these years. And even though the buses are becoming more wheelchair friendly, but like we heard from Tapas and Sadamini, that there is still a lack of sensitization. So, do you think that despite the infrastructure being more wheelchair friendly and more ramps being put, do you feel that the bus conductors, the drivers, or co passengers are sensitized enough to accommodate a wheelchair user? And also, reaching the bus in itself can sometimes be a challenge due to the lack of inclusive first and end mile options. So, considering all of these, can you please share your experience with us?
Sure. Thank you, Chanel. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak up about my experiences. Can I?
I think we lost her voice.
Yes, I think.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hello.
Your video is frozen, Meenu.
मेरा अभी तक कुछ नहीं.
I think she's um, joining again.
Hi. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. यस चांदनी, पहले से जिस तरीके से मैं बताऊं कि मुझे सेरेब्रल पल्सी है और मैं व्हीलचेयर पे हूँ. मैं अपने टाइम की बात बताऊं, पहले जब हम बाहर निकलते थे तो ऑटो के अलावा हमारे पास और कोई ऑप्शन नहीं होता था. और बसेस तो बिल्कुल एक्सेसिबल नहीं थी, मेट्रो नहीं थी. उस टाइम पे बहुत प्रॉब्लम होती थी. और उस टाइम पे जब मैं कॉलेज कर रही थी या स्कूल जाती थी तो मेरे को सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम थी कि मेरे को स्कूल तक कौन लेके जाएगा, कैसे जाऊंगी. मेरा स्कूल तक पहुंचना बहुत मुश्किल था. उस टाइम पे ना हमारे पास ये व्हीलचेयर होती थी, मोटराइज व्हीलचेयर, ना मेरे पास इतना पैसा होता था कि मैं रोज ऑटो पे आना जाना करूं. तो ऑटो पे जाना मेरे लिए लग्जरियस होता था कि ठीक है, कहीं जा रहे हैं तो ऑटो पे जा रहे हैं। लेकिन जैसे जैसे अब टाइम बीतता जा रहा है, मैं कह सकती हूँ कि हाँ, मेट्रो इज अ बहुत एक्सेसिबल कम्यूट सिस्टम है, जहाँ मैं आराम से आना जाना, अकेली आना जाना कर सकती हूँ। मुझे किसी की हेल्प की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है, क्योंकि ऑलरेडी वहाँ पे असिस्टेंट होते हैं हेल्प करने के लिए मेट्रो स्टेशन पे। तो मुझे अच्छा लगता है कि मैं आज़ाद हो गई हूँ, क्योंकि मैं मोटराइज व्हीलचेयर चला के मैं मेट्रो तक पहुँच सकती हूँ। मेट्रो से जहाँ मुझे पहुँचना है, मैं इजीली अकेले पहुँच सकती हूँ, मुझे किसी की हेल्प की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती। डिपेंडेंसी खत्म हो गई है मेरी उस पर। और और आप जैसे बात कर रही हैं, हमारे यहाँ जो बसेस आई हैं लोअर फ्लोर वाली, यस, मैं एक बार बस पे बैठी थी। इस इजी, थोड़ा सा हेल्प की जरूरत पड़ती है पीछे से पकड़ने की, लेकिन हाँ इजीली चढ़ जाती है, बस में जा सकती है हमारी व्हील चेयर। लेकिन यस, सेंसिटाइजेशन की जरूरत है बस स्टाफ को, जैसे ड्राइवर को, कंडक्टर को, या हमारे साथ जो पैसेंजर चलते हैं, उनको भी सेंसिटाइजेशन की जरूरत है। सबसे पहले हमें हमें खुद भी सेंसिटाइज होना पड़ेगा। हम में से कई लोग, ये बसेस हमारे लिए आई हैं, क्या कोई कोई भी व्हीलचेयर पर्सन बस स्टैंड पे खड़ा होता है? नहीं खड़ा होता है। और यही प्रॉब्लम है कि जब कोई आता ही नहीं है बस स्टैंड पे किसी को, तभी तो मेरा मानना यह है कि मैं बस स्टैंड पे खड़ी होंगी तो 4 लोग वहां पे और खड़े होंगे, तो मैं उनको बोलूंगी मेरी हेल्प करो मुझे ऊपर चढ़ाने में। इससे पहले बस के स्टाफ को सेंसिटाइज होना चाहिए, उन्हें बस रोकनी चाहिए। वो पता है हमारे को देख के बस नहीं रोकते हैं। प्रॉब्लम ये है, उनको लगता है कि हम एक तो स्पेस ज्यादा लेंगे, हमारी जगह वो ज्यादा लोगों को बिठा पाएंगे। अगर मेरी व्हीलचेयर दी जाएगी तो 4 लोग और आ जाएंगे, उनके इनकम बढ़ जाएगी और मैं अकेली चढ़ूंगी। और कई बार उनको ये रहता है कि हम लोग डिसेबल हैं, शायद हम पास चलाएंगे, टिकट तो लेंगे नहीं, इस चक्कर में भी वो हमें छोड़ जाते हैं। तो बहुत सारी, मैं कहूंगी ये एक तरफा नहीं है, हमारी तरफ से अगर हम भी खड़े होंगे वहां पे, अगर ज्यादा तादाद में हम खड़े रहेंगे, तो शायद शायद मुझे लगता है कि वो लोग हमारे लिए बस रोके और हमें भी बस पे ट्रेवल करने का मौका मिले। मैं एक बार बस ट्रेवल कर चुकी हूँ, उस टाइम पे मैंने देखा कि जो रैंप था वो जाम हो गया था, उसको पता नहीं कितने सालों से कभी खोला ही नहीं गया था। दूसरा, उसकी हालत इतनी खस्ता हो गई थी, मुझे डर लग रहा था कि चढ़ भी पाऊंगी या व्हीलचेयर के साथ ही वो टूट जाएगा। तो ये बस का एक्सपीरियंस था। जब हम प्राइवेट की व्हीकल्स की बात करते हैं, जैसे कैब हो गया, ऑटो हो गया, वो लोग हमारी व्हीलचेयर देखते ही, अगर मैं ओला या उबर की भी बात करूं, अगर हम ओला उबर से भी उस कैब बुक करते हैं, जब वो कैब हमारे पास आती है, हमारी व्हीलचेयर देखती है, वो एकदम कैंसिल कर देते हैं बुकिंग। वो कहते हैं हम इनकी व्हीलचेयर नहीं रखेंगे, हमारी गाड़ी पे स्क्रैच आ जाएगा, हमारी गाड़ी गंदी हो जाएगी। तो इसका सॉल्यूशन मुझे समझ में नहीं आता कि हम बिना व्हीलचेयर के कैसे जा सकते हैं, क्योंकि ये तो हमारी टांगे हैं, बिना व्हीलचेयर के नहीं पहुंच पाएंगे। तो कैब हो गया, ऑटो हो गया, ऑटो वाले हमारा पैसेंजर का जो लेते हैं किराया, इसके साथ साथ वो हमारी व्हीलचेयर का भी किराया लेते हैं। अगर आप कोई और सामान, सूटकेस वगैरह या कोई भी सामान आप ऑटो में रखते हैं, उसका कोई चार्ज नहीं होता। लेकिन हम जब अपनी व्हीलचेयर लेके ऑटो में जाते हैं, उसका भी चार्ज देना पड़ता है हमको। थैंक यू।
Thank you for sharing your experiences, Meenuji. And just for the benefit of our international viewers who are joining us, I'll translate a little bit of what Meenu said into English. So she spoke about how the metro is the most accessible commute option that is available right now, because the metro also has the people to accompany and guide wheelchair users for commuting. So that definitely helps. And for the low floor buses that have been introduced recently, while it has been a welcome introduction, um, wheelchair users still require help to pick up the wheelchair from behind, and there is a need for sensitization at both levels for the bus and drivers and the conductors, as well as for persons with disabilities, because since these buses have been introduced for them specifically, they need to be more aware of it and be more visible, travel more in public transport, so that because of the wider visibility, there will be a better sensitization in the larger the larger masses, including the bus drivers, and they will be able to understand the needs better. She also shared some experiences where the bus drivers, after seeing a wheelchair, did not stop at the bus stop, because when they see a wheelchair user, they have to firstly wait. It takes a longer time, and because there is a wheelchair, that will take up the space of four commuters. So that means less ticket sale for them, and also they might feel that a person with disability might just use the free pass. So again, that leads to a loss of revenue for them. So these are some of the issues that Meenu spoke about. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, Meenu. And I know that you have more commitments today, but if you can stay, we would have an open discussion, question answer session at the end. So if you can stay, please do. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us today, Meenu. Thank you. Now, I'd like to invite Mr. Subhash Chandra Vishish. Are you here?
Hi, yes, I'm here, Chandni.
Yes, can you please share your, turn on your camera, please?
Will that be mandatory? I'm slightly in a lower internet connection, so will it be okay if I don't?
Okay. That's okay, sir.
Yeah.
No worries. No
Thank
worries.
you.
All right. So we have heard the experiences of persons with disabilities till now, and as an expert who's working in the policy and standard formulation from the last few years, I would like to ask that what is the solution? We've heard the issues, we've heard the challenges from you. We'd really like to hear that what are the solutions to some of the problems that we've heard, and how can we design a roadmap for the future to solve these issues?
Thank you, Chandni. I mean, when we sit in planning solutions for these challenges, because we have all these challenges that we have just heard. I had a little more, I jotted down a little more than that. In fact, many people did not say those, but we have entire gamut of challenges that people face. And when we develop our policies and we develop our standards, we do ensure that we keep those those inputs and those challenges in mind while designing those policies, and that's how we have done it. But eventually what happens is when it goes on to the field and during practicals, there are always some cracks, and some cracks majorly are because humans are so diverse, and each one is a set of his own experiences that they come with their own, I won't call it a baggage, but their own experiences of how much they're sensitized, how they behave with persons with disabilities, or leave aside persons with disabilities in general, how they behave with other fellow human beings who may need support or who may be in different circumstances. So this is the larger issue revolves around sensitization. And this is pretty important. So I mean, if I just talk about in terms of mobility, whenever we are planning, we look at the entire travel chain. So not just a bus or a taxi or a footpath, but we look at the entire mobility chain or a travel chain in mind, that how a person leaves his home, how he reaches the nearest bus stop or a taxi stand or the metro station, how he gets on to his destination, and the last mile connectivity, and he returns. So all processes or all challenges that the person faces when he starts from his home, whether it is lack of footpath or whether it is lack of signages or other barriers such as street dogs, because we have received so many reports from people who are blind that they are they have been bitten by street dogs when they're walking with their white canes, and nobody shared that. And there are cows and they're sitting on the way, and they literally block the entire passage. So these challenges are very rudimentary. If I say not cities, but even in cities, we find these, leave aside rural areas. So entire travel chain need to be considered from the perspective of mobility. And the challenges majorly that I said was of sensitization. So for this, what we need to do is conduct larger sensitization exercises time and again. So this is for the service providers and the stakeholders, whether it is metro, whether it is buses, whether it is taxis, or whether it is aviation, or any transport medium where mobility happens. All people need to be sensitized on the needs of persons with disabilities, or not just their needs, but how to help, extend the help, various beneficial provisions that exist, but they don't get translated into reality when it's on the ground. Now I'll give you one example. We have concessional tickets almost in all transportation except for Delhi Metro, because which has its own issues of loans, so therefore they're not extending it. But most other transport mediums have the concessional tickets, but not many people have access to it, or the processes are sometimes so difficult that they're not able to access them. So we need to we have good policies, we have created good policies, we have created good standards. For every solution, for every challenge that people have put forward, we have provided a solution to it. The challenge that we are facing is in implementing that solution. I'm giving you 3 examples. One is somebody spoke about ticket vending machines are not accessible to the blind and to wheelchair users, whether it is metro or whether it is other mode of transport. Now the National Building Code 2016 has a clear-cut design intervention and design standard as to how to design an accessible ticket vending machine. Many banks have already put this design in practice when they're installing their ATMs. So the solution is available in terms of standard. We need to see how it's being implemented on the ground, where it is falling in the cracks. Another issue, the point of sale machines. Or for example, one simple example, I'm using a metro card, and when I get in the metro or get out of the metro, as a blind person, I do not know how much money is still there in or how much money is deducted in my card, because that is completely visual. Now here we have a solution of the ICT standards that the BIS has created, and they have already been notified in this year itself. So November, and one probably was in January and February. So we have conformance standards of ICT, and I was thankfully a part of that committee, which is Active Assisted Living, that has issued these standards on the BIS. Now, these have not been implemented. So point of sale machines, whether I want to buy petrol, as a blind person, I'm using a car, my driver is, I'm making the payment, I have my driver, but then I do not know how much money has been deducted. Or when I'm putting my PIN, I do not know how much money is written in there. So see, these need to be accessible. These are not accessible currently, but we have solutions. We have a common mobility card to travel across. I mean, this is a new concept which is being implemented. I'm sure similarly for persons with disabilities, there is a unique ID which gradually should be accepted, should be linked to Aadhaar, should be linked to beneficial schemes. This is already being done when there are direct bank transfers for people. This can easily be done for mobility card wherever there is a concession. The concession can be applied therein. I give you a small example in Delhi. For women, there's a free ticket. So free ticket would mean that ticket is issued, a pink ticket is issued, but then the operator charges for the ticket spent from the concessionaire. Now here there is a lot of ghalme, so we do not know how many tickets the ticket conductor has simply thrown away and charged from the department. A better way of doing it perhaps would be a mobility card which is linked to these various facilities, and you have a single mobility card where at the touch of that card, the person is able to pay his amount, and this amount get sort of credited from the government. So these solutions exist. They've been presented to the government. Government is very sincerely thinking of these solutions so that these the challenges of the last mile are removed. We in city like Delhi, we are sitting in the capital. There is so much of pollution. There is so much of rush. We do not have accessible taxis. Even today, the main reason perhaps is that the current taxis, the design of the taxis is not accessible. Whatever space that is at the back, it is taken away by a CNG cylinder because it is completely CNG. Wherever you have electric run taxis, there also there is little space. So nobody has thought about incorporating accessibility for wheelchair users or assisted device users or people with added luggage to be considered for these larger taxis. Of course, in other cities and other countries, we have bigger taxis in Ola and Uber, especially. But here in city, we don't have a single taxi which is accessible as of today. And there are solutions to it. The solutions simply are that we have an extra space. The other challenge that we were having was the buses or the wagon-R, not really wagon-R, there is a Tata vehicle, Winger perhaps, that provides wheelchair accessibility because that has a higher roof height. But then that is a commercial vehicle. Nobody can buy it. So even in the personal taxi segment today, we do not have a car available which is accessible for persons with disabilities. I'm still on the persons with physical disabilities. Another issue that we keep facing, and I think there's a solution to it, is again sensitization and training, is the right docking of buses at the bus queue shelters. Most people share that the buses do not stop. I think it is our experience as well. So these three things together. One is that the buses don't dock close to the curb. So people have to rush, people have to run, and the bus really leaves. People come in the conflict of moving traffic and they are in danger. Their life is in danger, life and limb is in danger. And second is they sometimes do not stop at all. Looking at, so there's a larger issue of sensitization. We've been training them. There are also cases reported of overcharging, especially when it comes to hired mode of transport like taxis, auto rickshaws, or battery rickshaws. They would always want extra money from people who are in bigger vehicles or wheelchairs or battery operated wheelchairs. So this issue has been resolved in the cases of trains, in the cases of aviation, where any person with a battery operated wheelchair can go free of cost to any destination in the world from Delhi airport. But then it is not really resolved in other modes of transport, such as the especially private ones, which are hired. The buses, of course, do not charge, but then taxis, these people are charging. Next issue, which is we are finding it really difficult to address even through policies, is the overcrowding in public transport, in mobility mediums. This is one challenge that we've been constantly facing, not just in buses, but also in metros in peak hours. It becomes next to impossible. And this is also impacting design. So there has been a long demand from the disability sector that we need to have low flow buses, and the buses need to have maximum number of people who could travel at one given point. This was implemented, but it is really not feasible because the moment you say no to someone, somebody would always find a way to get in. And if you say no, we simply do not have sufficient buses. So these challenges put together are making it very complicated for mobility to be really realized as a right. And this same goes, I think, with the classrooms that we have in the schools. The number of users are more in comparison to what is available, and these are constantly, we are facing challenges. So this is what I think I shared with you about various challenges and what the way forward. I had written a blog which in the initial thoughts, initial remarks, I think was mentioned, where I'm talking of how this all could be addressed. I can share a link to that article, and this article is in 3 series, where I've given details of how Government of India is actually promoting mobility of persons with disabilities by extending benefits of GST concession when you buy a vehicle. Currently, it is only available for persons with physical challenges, but then there is a possibility of extending this benefit to but the Court of Chief Commissioner has already passed an order that this needs to be extended to all disabilities, all persons with benchmark disabilities, irrespective of their category of disability. For example, a blind person can also buy a vehicle which can be bought with GST concession. There's a road tax concession. There is a concession in also the toll tax exemption. If you have a Divyang ownership, the rules have been changed under the Motor Vehicles Act, so it is literally free of cost. So you get the sticker from after producing all your documents, and it is installed on your car, and wherever you go, it is completely free. So all these measures the government of India has taken, but how many people can actually afford a car or actually afford a petrol and diesel, a fuel, which is so costly? So that may not be a solution, but we need to find solutions for all categories of people from different economic strata and different disabilities. And I would say one solution may not help everyone. We need to find different solutions. We need to give people choices of how they want to travel, which medium they want to travel. And we need to make everything is not just accessible, but also affordable, and people and it's reliable. And it's also safe, because very often I keep standing. I don't get the bus for next 1 hour. It's not reliable. So as simple as that. I'll just pause here, and I think I'll respond to the questions that come. Otherwise, I have a long list of laws that are there, the rules that have been already passed, but that is not worth discussing. The point of discussion should be how we resolve the issues that are raised by persons with disabilities, how we make their life easier, how we make the right real, especially right to mobility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vashisht, for sharing your experience with us. And you've rightly mentioned that the solutions are already there, that there is being work that's being done. But the question now remains, how do we implement these and integrate it into the existing plans? So here I would like to invite Mr. Rajesh Trivedi, who has the experience of working on ground and also on formulation of policies. He's worked on the RPWD Act and is a special consultant with the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Sir, can you please turn on your camera? Yes. So, according to you, what gaps still remain, and what can we do to fill these gaps to ensure a more resilient and sustainable transport infrastructure that leaves no one behind?
Yes, of course, thank you. And welcome all the panelists, and thank you for organizing such events. And Chandni, I just shared you one clip.
Yes. So
Is it
before,
possible to display?
yes, definitely. Narendra, can you please share the video on the screen?
Yes, I'm sharing it now. Just give me a few seconds.
Sure.
See all the panelists, and we are talking about the implementation. Implementation is a major challenge. So first we see the video, and then we will discuss. Thank you. This is a small video, and I think there is no need to explain, because if you see the video, you can think what's the need in our society. All of us discussing about the implementation, and see in the early childhood how people going to be sensitized. And when you're talking about the mobility, And I'm working with the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disability, implementation of PWD Act 2016, and what are the challenges comes and how we are trying to resolve. So Mr. Basis and other speakers are explaining all the rules, regulation, act. So I'm not going to talk about these things again. Just I'm trying to discuss my own experience and how the things come on ground and become more accessible. So in our country, we have three types of mode of transportation: railways, roadways, and airways. And during COVID, one thing we should learn, although we have so many hurdles, so many tough times, but how we can do work online. So sensitization is very important. And if government thinks, if system thinks, then we start a small video just like we have just shared and sensitize all the staff of railways, all the staff of roadways, all the staff of airways, because we have recently received our grievances on the Indira Gandhi Airport Terminal 3, because one wheelchair you just came to the, I don't want to say the name, and wheelchair unka yahi pe reh gaya. The staff of the airport authority said, okay, you leave your wheelchair, I will put down. And जब वो मुंबई पहुंचे, then there is no wheelchair. So the challenge comes, the staff are not fully sensitized. How to help, how to coordinate with the system, airport authority, airlines, and other things. Similarly, in trains, if you think several times, the ticket, TT, and other staff are not fully sensitized how to behave with the hearing impairment, person with hearing impairment, person with visual impairment, or person with locomotor disability, what their needs. So again, we have to sensitize them through a small video clipping. And I think government should start making some online program, 1 hour or 2 hours to all staff members. When you're talking about the roadway, so first of all, we sensitize the transport department. Members are working transport department. And before that, we also sensitize the authority who provide the license for two-wheeler, four-wheeler, or heavy truck vehicles. How to act. As our first speaker told about, when I saw the white cane, still you were not recognizing me. Yeah, this is challenge of the society. हमारे बसेज वहीं पे आके रुकते हैं जहाँ पे हमारे बस स्टैंड नहीं होते हैं. People are just stopping their vehicle in the front of the bus stand. So this is another challenge. So we have to make things more accessible. When we're talking about the accessibility, the toilets are not fully accessible at all in India. I have seen several places. If you go and see the accessible toilet, what you see? Just two handles, one put on basin, two open pots. But if person fell down from the wheelchair inside the toilet, what happened next? अगर कोई व्यक्ति व्हीलचेयर से टॉयलेट के अंदर गिर जाता है तो व्हाट हैपन? उसी में मर जाएगा. There is no way of rescue because there is no alarm system. So such kind of sensitization should be there. So each and every department take your own responsibility according to their work and start sensitization. I'm talking about the different provisions of Ministry of Social Justice Empowerment or Department of Government of Persons with Disability. See, we have around 70 ministry and some departments working for the welfare of the society, including persons with disability or children with disability. But if you think their website is accessible, no, not at all. Few website is accessible. And अभी जब हम बात करते हैं accessibility की, तो हमारे 2 or 3 modes ही accessible में आते हैं. But nowadays we need one more feature in accessibility, especially on the website. What are the new features? Every website of the department, of the ministry or government or central government, they should display in their tab on top or at home page what are the benefit, facility, concession are available for PWD. This helps a lot to know how we can get the benefit from the different ministry on different department. It is still missing. This is my own experience. For example, Ministry of Railway, they have different norm for concession of person with visual impairment, person with hearing impairment, person with locomotor impairment, and other associated disability. Similarly, concession in education, concession in employment, or sorry, reservation and other things. People have their own different kind of demands. Some people demanding we need the free gas cylinder, free gas, subsidy in the electricity, subsidy in the petrols and other things. So many things we need to consider, and our speakers are truly speaking that act is there, policy are there, rules are there, department trying to implement the things, but it is not only one way, it is a two-way. When government and non-government organizations come together and work together for the betterment of the society, when we're talking about the inclusive society, then we have to think inclusive. We have to work inclusive. If you see I had my own experience in the different hospitals. There is no specific counter for person with disability. Some counter has written the person with disability, but their staff are not fully sensitized. आप देखेंगे अगर किसी हॉस्पिटल में आप जाएं कि कोई ब्लाइंड व्यक्ति गया है तो उसका हाथ ऐसे पकड़ के खींच रहे होते हैं उसके जो गार्ड्स या अदर होते हैं, ऑल्दो वो हेल्प करने के लिए ले जा रहे होते हैं, लेकिन वो ऐसे ले जाते हैं जैसे वो पुल कर रहे हैं, खींच रहे हैं, because they are not aware how to tackle them. Most of the guard are not know how to use the wheelchair, how to assist the wheelchair user in the hospitals. So we need to sensitize them at the ground level. Even some staff are not fully sensitized about how to help the person with disability, children with disability, senior citizens which they have limited mobility and mobility challenges. So I again want to say we have learned about how to start our online classes, training program. So all the departments should make the small video clipping, some programs, and start sensitization to all their staff. Because the person with disability is also part of our society, and every person has their own family members, friends member, or some colleague, some are partially or fully affected with the person with disability or in some limitation of the disability challenges. Even we have a senior citizen, our family member, they have own mobility limitations. So my point here that government is doing their own role, society and civil society doing all role, but again we need to do more and more things about how to make society aware. And I also try to focus our print media and electronic media to take their own responsibility, how society made more inclusive, where person with disability, children with disability, senior citizen with disability or their mobility limitation, or person with diverse need, to make and feel comfortable that we all living in inclusive society, there is no barriers. Of course, there are so many barriers, challenges, attitudinal barrier and other barriers. But there is a will, there is a way. If you want, we can do it. We can achieve it. And it is not impossible. It will be done. So we need little efforts from all the corner of the society, and I think it will be implemented very soon. Of course, government doing very good job because I'm on a part of the system and I know how we can do things. But again, this is not enough. Everybody have to think about that, how we can make things more accessible. आज अगर 100 बच्चे जन्म लेते हैं तो अराउंड 6 to 7 बच्चे पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटी, चिल्ड्रन विद डिसेबिलिटी के रूप में होते हैं, किसी न किसी प्रकार की लिमिटेशन और चैलेंजेस होती है. So out of 100, 6 to 7 person with disability or children with disability come their own limitation. And if you think we 92 or 93% who are not disabled, they can try to support them, to try to help them to come. We all together, we work together, we live together, we learn together, we earn together. Definitely we will win and we make an inclusive society where no one lives behind. So again, I want to say from all of you, all the stakeholders, that think inclusive and start doing how society make more inclusive and try to minimize all the barriers and challenges which we are facing. And definitely we start working, challenges will come, but definitely we have a solution and we can minimize all the barriers, and definitely we make the inclusive society. Thank you. And if you have any question, I'm ready to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Trivedi, and thank you for your inputs and sharing your on-ground experiences. We have a lot of international listeners with us today. So now we'd like to open the floor. And if anyone has any questions, or even if you'd like to share certain experiences from your own countries, if you know the situation is similar, or if you have any other inputs to share regarding the situation of inclusive mobility and transportation outside of India, or anything else that you want to share, please feel free to raise your hands and we'll enable your mic. If anybody from the participants would like to ask any questions, we still have a panelist with us. You can ask them questions. Anybody from the GIZ team who would like to ask questions? I think it would be very fascinating. Yes, Saudamini is here. Saudamini, do you want to type your question in the chat box? You'll have to also turn on your camera. Yes, yes, thank you. Karishma, you'd be translating for us?
Yes, ma'am. I want to ask question. Sir showed one video.
Rajesh ji.
Rajesh. Rajesh ji. First show video. He showed one video. What does it mean? I'm not. It's not accessible, and I don't understand because captioning was not there and video was missing at that time.
Rajesh, would you like to explain the gist of the video for Saudamini?
Yes. The video just have a small clipping and show how in the initial stage of schooling make people aware about the ethics. If any person who have any challenges, suppose first person came as a locomotor disability, then how we give the offer the seat. So similarly, the different kind of people come, pregnant women, women with child. So they offer the seat. It shows how to respect the need of the other people. So it's a symbol of bus. When we're traveling in a bus, how we can offer the seat for someone with special need or need more than that other person or more than us. So they try to teach the children in the very early age so they can become a good citizen of the society. Recently, I received this clipping from my WhatsApp, and when I just try to relate, though I feel that it's a good for today presentation. In a small age, see a small classroom, children are sitting there. One just stop showing their handle, studying, and the other offering the seat when another person comes who has the more need of the seat than the person who is sitting.
Thank you for explaining that, Mr. Trivedi. If there are any other questions for our panelists.
Chandni, if nobody's asking, I just want to have a just few understanding from Mr. Silpa.
Ma'am is saying
Yes, Karishma.
Actually, ma'am is sending something in chat box.
Okay, sure, sure. Yes, Shirish, please.
I was just saying I don't have any question. I just wanted to ask, Mr. Subha, I just want to have an understanding. We started with this. I mean, the government of India also started the Accessibility India campaign or the Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan back in 2016. There we saw a lot of auditing with respect to transport facilities being airport, railway stations, and all those things. Where are we right now with respect to that? And any major transformational change we it happened, or any follow up thing which is happening right now in terms of a policy change or in terms of capacity building or the institutional development. Just want to understand of yeah.
I would like to mention here, as you have mentioned, most of the airport of India has fully accessible, but sometimes we face the challenges, and our travelers are facing challenges using the wheelchair and other associated problems. So one thing what I feel the missing is the sensitization of the staff. Even railway station, as so many work has done, and but still few stations are left. Retrofitting is one of the major issues, and government is doing. And I am happy to share with you that government of India not only try to make accessible airport, railway, and a building and other thing. We have taken the initiative Sugam Bharat Abhiyan, Sugam Tirth Asthan. And Government of India, Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disability has sanctioned 2 crore, uh, 2 crore 3 lakh something, exact figure I'm not remember, to make accessible Ganga Ghat in Varanasi and 2 Ghat, the Saswamedh Ghat and Assi Ghat, to make both Ghat fully accessible for persons with disability so that they can reach to the ground and touch the water of Ganga. So government is doing wonderful thing, what I feel and seen, but still, because our huge country and there are so many infrastructure to have rebuilt, or some places we need the retrofitting. So sometimes we feel the challenges, but definitely if we start working and change the attitude of the society, attitude of the people towards the accessibility and disability, definitely we achieve very soon our target and our society become more inclusive and accessible.
Thank you. Thank you for responding to that, Mr. Trivedi. So Damini has written one question in the chat, and I think we only have time left for one question. So the question is that there is a need of rights-based stance than charity stance for disability rights. This is definitely
Actually, Chandni, that was not a question. That was she meant, like she meant to say. She was saying that
okay.
to him because by the
Okay,
video which he presented.
right. Oh, definitely, ma'am. Very well pointed. And would you like to explain that? This was in response. Yes. So, Damini, would you like to uh, talk a little more on this? No,
Can
no, so
someone
Damini,
please
yes.
spotlight Saudamini so that we can see her what she wants to say.
I want to say after seeing that video, okay, after seeing that that we are offering or supporting its idea, the sir said that yeah, this idea is good, that yeah, in initial stage we are teaching students, children like this, but is the disabled have their own ID awareness, but it is important that disabled have their own ID and socialization to offer help. It doesn't mean if disabled person, if a person is expert
If a person, wait,
in
I'll
need, okay, okay.
Indian
In
Constitution, yeah, in Indian Constitution, we have that if a person needs help, then you give them help. And we have to make
it's
it equal.
equality.
We have to give it equality. That was my opinion regarding the video, and I hope you understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely, yeah.
Can I say
Chandni,
something?
I can. Chandni, can I come in? I just wanted to.
Yes, sure. So we just have very quickly, like the last few minutes before we close. Yes, Mr. Vashish, do you want to add something?
No, no, in case, because I think there was a question addressed to me as well for on the campaign. See, the campaign has set certain targets, and the targets were into three verticals, which was built environment, buildings, and also ICT, the websites and documents. So the campaign largely achieved its targets, and some are still in the process. So under that, audits were done, and buildings are being retrofitted, funds were released, and buildings are being made accessible. But continuing that campaign, the government of India is now under Section 40. If you look at Section 40 of the RPWD Act, sector-specific guidelines are being developed by each ministry. So, for example, Transport Ministry, Aviation Ministry, Railway Ministry, each ministry has come out with their own set of accessibility guidelines as to how they will implement the Disability Act and the accessibility campaign and how will they achieve. So talk of railways, it has in class A and B category stations, they have achieved largely 80% accessibility. And in other set of stations which are not directly, which are being supported, which are very smaller stations, it's like they have created a prioritized list. So work is happening. I can definitely connect to offline to update on that. But I just want to update that there are two websites on which you could get updates on what are the challenges people are facing in mobility. So there is one website called blog rather, dignified transportation, dignified flying for the disabled.blogspot. I'll maybe just post two separately. It has most update of what people are facing when they're flying, also when they're traveling. So it'll have a lot of users reported content as well in case you want to have access to that. I'll stop at that.
Thank you, Mr.
Chandni?
Vashish. Yes.
Can I ask a last question maybe? I know we are already out of time.
Yes, please do, Naren. And I would like to request Mr. Vashish to share all the blogs that he was mentioning. I think audience would be interested to know more. So kindly do share the links in the chat. Yes, Naren, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was talking to Tapas earlier, and he highlighted some issue related to documentation. So I just wanted to ask Tapas whether he would like to share that issue here on the panel, because I remember he was telling that there's multiple issue with multiple documentation regarding different passes on different modes.
Yes, Tapas, very briefly could take that up.
Yeah, sure. Sure, Chandni. Thank you, Naren, for yeah. Sure, Janni. Thank you, Naren, for bringing this up. And as I have already mentioned in my opening remarks, that we do have to carry multiple documents. You know, for instance, if we want a concession in the railway, we have a different form for that. If we want to have a concession in the Delhi Transport Corporation for the buses, we have a different form. I mean, we have a different pass which we are using for the same. So why these multiple documents when we have already moved towards the unique disability identity card? You know, can't we have an integrated approach? Or rather, since we are at the stage when separate ministries are kind of taking their own initiatives, then why not one card, you know, for the entire nation? And this actually creates a problem also at the time when you are traveling from one state to another. I mean, for work purposes and for other traveling purposes. So yeah, I mean, that is definitely an issue which requires an urgent intervention from the policy makers. Thank you.
Thank you, Tapas. And I think with this we can conclude the session if there are no other questions. So thank you so much to all the panelists who took out time to attend this session. And since tomorrow there is the 30th World Disability Day, in these 30 years, I'm sure we've come a long way, and there's still a very long way for us to achieve the targets that we have set for an accessible India. And all the people who attended today, the future transport planners who will be contributing to this, will get a new perspective hearing our panelists here. So thank you so much for all the attendees who've joined from various parts of the country, and to all our panelists. Thank you so much. We hope you had some food for thought and some interesting learnings from this session. Feel free to drop in your feedback or any other comments in the chat. We will definitely take those up. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye and thank you.
Thank you, Tasleem. Thank you, Karishma.
Thank you very much, Chandni, for having
Thank you,
us here.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.